Hey everyone, my name's Spencer and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well and taking care of yourselves. Today is gonna hopefully be a very chill video, so go and grab your warm beverage of choice and a tasty snack, and let's hang out and make some art. Today I'm showing you my setup for my February bullet journal. I decided to go with a koi theme this month, as suggested by my partner, but it was also inspired by Joshi Corinne's setup back in November, I think? But I had no idea she was also going to do this theme for February in her giveaway journal. I'd actually just finished filming when I got the notification that she'd uploaded that. There must have been something in the air this month. I'm of course adapting the original inspiration into my style, a sort of stylized realism. I don't really know how to explain my style. I'm still learning about a lot of this, and my style is bound to keep changing over time, but for now, this is what it looks like. That's one reason why I've loved keeping an arty bullet journal. It's acted as a record of my art and my development and improvement as an artist. It's also definitely helped me practice drawing, because I never felt like my scribbles or doodles were worth putting in a sketchbook, which I know is totally backwards, because sketchbooks are there for you to practice in. But, brains, am I right? Even though I felt pressure to get things right because I was filming my setups, having a space where I can do as much drawing or as little as I liked has given me space to try new things without the pressure of it being a piece of art. Instead, it's just a page in my journal. I wonder, do any of you guys feel like that with yours? Let me know. Anyway, back to the spread. As you can see, I spent some time drawing in various koi fish, swimming in a variety of directions. I found that they looked best when they were swimming around something, so they had a lovely curve to their body. So if you want to recreate this in your style, that's what I'd recommend. Bendy fish. I used a 0.1 fine liner to do this, and because these fish are underwater, I deliberately used very light strokes that were broken up every now and then. You may notice that I've left some larger gaps in between the lines. This will make sense when I come to draw in the water later, so just bear with me for now. I also added some lily pads for them to swim around, just to break up the page a little bit more. Oh, and of course I had to add their cute little mustaches. What koi is complete without a cute little mustache? To colour them, I used a range of orange and yellow shades. I made sure that some of these were bolder and more opaque, and the others were fainter or more translucent so that I could create a gradient on their fins. I'll put a list of all the products I used in the description. For each fish, I started by colouring the spots on the body with the boldest colour I would use on that, and then would add details like the gradient on the fins and the freckles afterwards. It was a pretty straightforward process, and the more you do, the more of a feel you get for it, the easier it is to just quite literally go with the flow. Before doing the line work on the other page, I decided to draw in the water, so now you'll see why I left those spaces on certain sections of the fish. And look, sometimes you have to free yourself from the constraints of society and pen caps stuck to the end of your pen. And that's okay. I did the water in the same way that I did when I created this weekly spread of a shot from Spirited Away back in August of last year. To do this, you basically create splodges? I can't think of a better word for that off the top of my head. You need to space them slightly so there's white space in between them, and you can show how the water is moving or being disturbed via the shape you make the water section. In this, it's only really being moved by the fishes swimming underneath. So I started by making my splodges, there's gotta be a better word for this, around or over the koi, and then move them out from there. It doesn't matter if you make mistakes here, like accidentally making two splodges touch. That can be fixed when you do the white borders. You could offset your outline slightly if you wanted to for just a bit more visual interest. For example, if you're doing a whole page like this. And maybe that would have worked better for my cover page, but honestly, I didn't feel like trying to do that extra level of braining. So from the way I'm drawing these, I'm hoping you can see that the reason the colouring and the line work of the koi fish is broken up is because these are the parts that you would actually be able to see. And the white outline parts that I was describing before act as the movements and reflections on the water, which would obscure your view of the fish. This just helps it seem like you really are looking down on the fish from above the water rather than the fish hovering in space. The light blue pen that I was using decided to give up the ghost in the middle of colouring this page, and of course I didn't have a single other blue pen that matched it, but I did have one that was slightly darker. So looking back at my reference picture of the weekly I'd done a few months ago, I'd actually used a darker blue outside of the rippled water, so I decided to go with that slightly darker blue on the remaining spot. Luckily, because I'd started with the ones that covered the fish and were more central, it worked because it was just the darker ones on the outside. On the other side of the cover page, I drew a couple more koi fish, but I really wanted these ones to be going over the circle that I had sketched for the heading, which doesn't really match what I did on the previous page where you're looking down on the fish. To kind of fix this, I brought the water over onto the cover page slightly, but had it fade out before I got to my next sketch. And I actually really like how this turned out. I used this page to write both my monthly title and my quote. I left space to write Feb in the centre, and then around the outside edge, occasionally obscured by the fish swimming over it, I wrote Carpe Diem, because I could not resist the pun. Thank you to my wonderful partner for coming up with that one. I don't think I show it here because it doesn't really show up on camera, but in between all the water splodges, I used a white acrylograph, but you can use any white paint pen or gel pen works as well on smaller sections, and just filled in that space with it. This helps clean up the edges and makes the ripples stand out more. Like I said, it doesn't really show up on camera brilliantly, but it really works in person because it helps knock back the dots from the paper and makes them less noticeable. I decided to give the water edge a kind of drop shadow to separate the two illustrations slightly, but not entirely. And then I just decorated the page with some of my washi tapes. I used blue ones to represent the water, and then orange and yellow ones to tie in the koi colours. Next up is my monthly calendar. I know I've said this before, but I don't really change up the basic spreads that I use in my setup. I just do what works for me. And that's pretty much always a cover page, a calendar, my trackers, and then a brain dump page. And then of course all my weekly pages after that. I do try to change up the layouts that I use and how I decorate them though, so it's still fun for you to watch and for me to use. I'm decorating this page much like the title page, so I won't go through all of that again. Basically, I'm drawing my calendar box first, which this time is 6 dots across by 6 dots down, so it's actually slightly larger than I've done in the past. This time I put my calendar slightly further to the right hand side of the pages, leaving me the left hand side free for doodles. I outlined my calendar box using a dark blue pen, and instead of creating separate header boxes for the days of the week, I just wrote them out in kind of a bounce calligraphy font and joined that with the outline line, if that makes sense. Then I added in all my water shapes again. Some of you may be watching this and saying, "But Spencer, isn't that the pen that just ran out on the first page?" And you'd be right, but before anyone accuses me of necromancy, I'll let you in on a secret. I don't actually film my pages in order. I pretty much always film using only natural light, simply because I think it looks better, but a full bullet journal setup can take anywhere between 4 to 8 hours for me, depending on how involved they are and how I'm feeling that day. Dynamic disabilities can be a right pain in the butt like that. Side note, I think the longest I've spent on a setup was my Spirited Away one, where the line work on the cover page alone took well over 8 hours. I think the entire setup came in between 12 and 14, maybe even 15 hours total. Anyway, because of that, I tend to film in blocks. So I'll film all the ones that take less time together, so like the trackers and the brain dump, and sometimes the calendar page if it's not too involved. And then I'll film the more detailed pages, like my cover page, on a separate day. This helps me to, 1, take breaks, but also keep the lighting more even throughout the video, as I can make the best use of the good daylight I have, which is definitely easier now that I've moved into a new office studio and have a massive window in there. But yes, the reason you're seeing that pen again and it working perfectly is because I filmed this page before the cover page. It is now well and truly gone from this world. To finish this page, I added a drop shadow to the calendar sections, just because it didn't look quite right to me when it was flat against the water design. My next spread is for my trackers, and you'll notice I've jumped a bit here. That's because I initially did my habit trackers in blue, which doesn't look bad, don't get me wrong, I like it. But I've done blue trackers for the past 2 months, and I wanted to change, so you'll see me correct this in a little bit. I'm doing my usual trackers, my habits, my pain, and my mood. My pain tracker is another bar chart type one, which fitted vertically onto this page alongside my habit. I did a bar chart for January as well and actually found this really helpful, so I've decided to stick with that this time. I usually put my pain tracker alongside my mood tracker, but I had a very specific idea for what I wanted my mood tracker to look like and needed more space to be able to get the look I wanted. I actually did a similar thing last month with my Stray Kids The View setup, To fix my mistake with the habit trackers, I didn't see the point in trying to go over them with a gel pen or a paint pen, as that would actually call more attention to it for all the wrong reasons. So instead, I cut out half a page from the back of my bullet journal and just stuck it over the section I wanted to cover. I did then have to re-sketch my koi fish and redo the trackers. I think I also did the spacing differently because it looks like there's one less tracker on there now. Ah well, I can always track things in my weeklies as well if there's extra things I want to keep on top of. My mood tracker this month is a circular one with the centre coloured green, and then it has a darker green outline for each daily box, which I'll colour in each day to represent my mood. This is a really simple setup, and you can actually get loads of free circular templates online if you want to. Personally, I just used my roll of tape to draw around because it's what I had on hand. And again, I just used that black brush pen to create a bold heading in the centre. And actually, I'm just noticing, I think it looks a bit like the Mood Fabrics logo, but oh well. Then it was time to decorate again. Can you tell this is one of my favourite parts? I absolutely love just experimenting with stickers and washi tape and extra doodles. And I think it's important to show you the process I go through when decorating my page like this. I actually change my mind a lot as I go through it, and I experiment with different tapes that vary in size, colour and pattern. Basically, I just keep trying different things until I'm happy with it. It doesn't always happen the first time. Actually, it rarely happens the first time. And it definitely takes some practice to learn what you like and what looks best with what you've already created. But gradually, I think you get more used to it. Hi, seagulls. But gradually, I think you get more used to it and finesse what you kind of like. I actually often go back and look at the other pages too, not just the spread that I'm focusing on. And I look for ways to tie the whole thing together, just so it all looks nice and cohesive. We're now on to my final spread for this setup, and that is my brain dump page, which is basically a double page spread, a nice big space to write notes, thoughts, reminders, affirmations, basically anything that is in my brain that needs to get out. I decorated this page with some of my koi fish drawings in either corner, and did more washi tape to try and tie it together to the previous pages. To really connect them, I also did this header in a large circle to emulate that of the cover page and the mood tracker. I tend to keep these pages a little simpler just to make the most of the space that I've got there, because I do usually fill these up. And here's my final flip through. I hope you enjoyed the video. I had so much fun making these spreads, and I'm really proud of how it turned out. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, it helps with engagement and algorithm BS. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button so we can hang out some more. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!